Today's thing, again, pencil in hand. When you know Kevin, he's got the pencil. Holy shit balls. It's about to be on like Donkey Kong. Today's conversation is what it says in the title. 21st century showbiz, which we're now a full 21 years into and some change in early 2022. But my general point to say to everyone, and this is why, guys, again, I've been speaking on the biz since 91. Analog, pagers. I mean, Wellesley, I know you were doing this back then or thereabouts. I mean, you had to pull over and find a payphone to call your agent to confirm an audition. I mean, it was nuts. And so my question has always been, and it's been going on for the last several years for me with our community, because I think we lose sight of easily in today's technological advanced environment that we live in, what's changed? Y'all just ponder that for a second. Gil, you and I go all the way back to 1989, bruh. You're the person here that I have known the longest, 89. Myself and Gil working together, part-time job, as we do, in Century City at a big law firm called Irella Manella. And I asked this question, I posed the question to you with, of course, the fact that I'm going to comment a great deal on it today. But what's changed? If I were to ask you to write down, right now, in front of you or text it into yourself, doesn't matter to me, what are the two most important things to you? When you first became an actor, setting aside with me, unless I highlight it, setting aside the craft, I want to be really good. Yeah, I was a collegiate athlete. I had a natural desire to, when I chose to do this, to realize, wow, I think I suck at this. I'm going to have to get better. Yes, we want to be talented, 100%. But that's not the question I'm asking. If you were to write down, right now, the two most important things to you as an actor, and you were to type in the comments right now what you think. Look, I got my old school folks in. I got Jonathan Sayers in. Look at Jay Money. If I were to ask you to write down right now, type in. Somebody type something in. Number one thing that's most important to you as an actor about the business. I know the two. This is kind of my point for today's conversation. Because exactly. Thank you, Judy. Appreciate it. That's one of the two. A representative, be it an agent or a manager, who actually does a terrific job. I like the less people in the business. That's a great comment. You know what's funny about that, Judy, is I used to say back in the Actors Network back in the day, I used to say, okay, so if we had a set of stipulations, and if we had not, keep the old joke of like, can you keep your man card? But if we had a thing where you had to do a certain amount of the business to actually keep your actor card, boy, would we actually pay attention to the business. But we don't. It's a no entry barrier profession, and it's a no consequence profession. Because, a billion times zero is still zero. And it's hard to codify or quantify what you aren't doing and what the results of what you're not doing aren't on a daily basis when you see people who don't. I like the marketing part, Gil, because that would be one of my top 5. But I still kind of come down to the place that the two most important things to us as actors, from a business standpoint, is to have a really good representative. And what is that person supposed to do? Quote unquote, get you job interviews, which we call auditions. So I used to always, to me, having access to what we deem as legit actor activity. You're going to hear a lot of little catchphrases from me on IG Live because I also put them in the YouTube videos of the library, the encyclopedia that I'm building. Legit actor activity. And the reason I say it that way is because the legit actor activity changes over the course of our career. It does. I mean, hey man, when I first got to Los Angeles, I did 14 student films. Didn't you guys? I mean, weren't we more open to it's any form of evolution in your career, any form of living. I've slept in my car and I've owned a 2,400 square foot house. I mean, we all go through levels in our life where certain things are more important than others at the moment, and then it shifts. This is the whole point of today's conversation. What has actually shifted in the 21st century that has changed wanting a really good representative and wanting regular, consistent access to legitimate actor activity, whatever that means. Because I know for someone like Craig Welsbacher, what that meant 20 years ago, what it means today, two different things. Gil, you've produced stuff, what it meant 20 years ago, what it means today, two different things. But nonetheless, even though I only audition for certain things at this point in my career, we still want as many of those as we can possibly get. To me, it's always been auditions and great representation. And what I posit to you guys, what I'm presenting this morning is, outside of all the technological advances, hey man, I get it. You know, at one time we had SAG experimental films and limited exhibition. Now we have like 7 modified contracts in SAG-AFTRA. We just created a micro budget. We have the short project agreement called SPA. So, and then you still have student films. And if you're non-union, you have all the non-union stuff. So I can certainly argue that no question, the fact we're doing this IG Live, yeah, that's something that's changed in the 21st century. Being able to speak to you guys and not have to be in just one room in Hollywood where people from Paris and other places can't actually gain from what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's a great change. But has it changed your ability to get a good representative? Has it changed your ability to get somebody who works for you and or even yourself? Yes, we have electronic submissions today, sure. And a joke I've been making this entire century. Wow, that's a really funny thing to say. I've been making this joke for this entire century. Yes, I have. We've saved a lot of beavers and trees in the last 21 years. Yes, we have. A lot less paper being used in the Hollywood marketplace and New York and Chicago and London and Sydney and everywhere, printing headshots, mailing them in 9x12 envelopes. Yeah, that's all changed. But here's the question. Has the idea of having electronic submissions for a representative made it any more effective? Do you even know if somebody has looked at your submission? Whether they ever click on red, we have this with self-tapes, but I'm not going to go down that road at the moment. It's the same issue. Man, I'm all for advanced technology, you guys. 100%. Or I wouldn't be sitting here doing this with you. So I'm all for it. I'm all for the fact, Gil, that you can go out and make a movie today of better quality in a shorter period of time with much better equipment for probably 5 times to 10 times less than what it would have been 20 years ago. No question. And the reality is, Mike, you make the comment of made it harder. I actually do believe that Hollywood has become a harder place. Now, I don't think it's become a harder place in these two things in certain ways, because I'm going to try and balance out the ease with which we can research things, which was a pain in the ass. It's funny, on the other side of my studio, sitting over there up on a shelf, no shit, is the last printed edition of the Hollywood Creative Directory. I laugh. I mean, it should be in the Smithsonian one day, right? And that was pre-IMDb Pro. Because IMDb started out as just something for fans, and then they realized, ooh, we got a whole, business revenue stream we can do here. And they did a great job. So the research is, but I agree with you, Mike, in the sense that the problem is what technology has done in the two things that we need. And we, real quick. We got to set aside the pandemic. Now, I don't mean you're dismissing and erasing the pandemic. That's not what I mean. That's awesome, Judy. I I don't mean that we're dismissing what the last 2 years of our lives have been, because it's coming up on the anniversary of shutting the country down, which is literally tomorrow. I landed from shooting The Righteous Gemstones on March 13th, which was a Friday 2 years ago. I almost got stuck in South Carolina. I landed on Friday the 13th to shut the country down on 3/15. I'm not dismissing it, okay? So set aside where we've all been caged by the pandemic. I get it. But even still, I agree with you, Mike, in the sense that what technology does do and what it has done, even when we're comfortable and we socialize and we go out to bars and clubs and do things and go to events and a thing and a whoop-de-doo and all that stuff that I always say, it still made a firewall. There is a natural firewall in technology. Yet, I can also say, back in the day, when I used to do drop-offs all the time, even though people told me, oh, you can't do that. Oh, yes, you can. And I was really good at it and really successful at it, because it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. This is the same thing today with all of the social media platforms. This is why you're going to hear me on YouTube talk about language and communication. These aren't things that anybody talks about with regards to the business of show business. And oh my God, they're the foundation of your life. Why wouldn't they be the foundation of the business of show business? Of course they are. How we speak to somebody. I always say these two things when it comes to being an actor: inform and disarm, inform and disarm. Because people have a lot of, scars from actors. They have a lot of trauma. They have a lot of PTSD in the vein of actor community. Globally, this isn't New Lauren's in Paris right now, man. It's the same challenge. People are people. This is my big thing about show business. Don't make it different than the rest of life. You have to have a certain degree of discretion, a certain degree of courtesy, a certain degree of je ne sais quoi. You have to have a certain way that you go about pursuing this career, but technology has certainly made researching easier. It just hasn't made, in my humble opinion, the things we really care about easier, which is finding a terrific representative that represents us well. It doesn't matter what area, literary, voiceover, commercial, theatrical, it doesn't matter. It's always been a bane of our existence. I've had 46 of them, which is well documented in my life and career. And then the other side is access. It's ironic that Gary Marsh, the owner of Breakdown Services, called his sub-revenue stream for actors access, because that word is accurate for us. And I just today want to make sure that at least sinks in that yes, a lot of the window dressing of Hollywood has changed. Yes, technology made it much easier, in a lot of ways, in a good way, for more global distribution of content, film, television. I mean, for those of us who are not under 40 years old, and I'm not, I go back to Star Wars and being a kid and being in high school. It would take like 6 or 7 years before that movie would make it to television in the edited version. And we all know that that's not the case now. It's just not. Movies are out and within a couple of months, especially during the pandemic, of them being released on a first-run theatrical platform, they're on the movie list on the plane you're on. So that kind of stuff has occurred. Yes, all those changes have happened. Yes, we have electronic portals. Yes, it makes it easier to point and click. But is it more effective? Are you getting better results today than if you were in this industry when I used to walk into offices doing drop-offs within 3 or 4 days of a breakdown coming out on a feature film being directed by whoever was the coolest back then? What's up, Merrick? Good to see you, my bro. Merrick McCarthy. All over your television these days, boys and girls. Merrick, I've seen the commercial like 27 times, bro. It's awesome. Um, I used to walk in offices, and what would be along the wall in front of you, no joke, were all the names of the characters on the wall of the project, and then from the floor, probably stacked up to, depending on the role, anywhere from 2 to 4 feet of headshots, bottom to top, bottom to top. Which is why I'm the guy who became the dude who said, don't submit for stuff the day it comes out if you happen to get the breakdowns on the black market back then, or even today. The legit breakdowns, not the ones on Actors Access. Don't submit the same day, because if you wait 3 or 4 days, if you drop your picture off, guess where the picture will be? On top of the stack. Oh, look, we got Peggy and Merrick on Valentine's Day. Hey, don't do anything weird with each other while you're, never mind, no one can see you. Do you do whatever you want to do? Happy Valentine's Day, you guys. Crazy married couple. I was at their wedding. Remember that on top. But now, that's why, Michael, I agree with you. Now what's changed is, oh, cool, I don't have to buy pictures. Oh, cool. Yeah, but you got to pay for submissions. And we don't even know if anybody looks at them. This is part of the challenge. Again, set the pandemic aside. Now, while I do not believe necessarily the commercial industry is going to make it back any more than, let's say, 50% for in-person auditions. I mean, Craig Welsbacher knows, and I know casting directors who are very committed to bringing back in-person auditions and not just relying, on Blue Jean or whatever it may be to do those. But the truth of the matter is, y'all don't forget, casting directors are independent contractors, man. And there we go. Yeah, no shit, Judy, right? Well, you're way ahead of me, girlfriend. Yeah, making a living in the industry is brutal. But, I mean, the truth of the matter is the casting directors don't get to control that. That's the thing we have to remember. Yes, as Wellesley just said it. It's in the comments right there. You guys look. If somebody, and again, think about the clients, think about now, I make a joke all the time, and this is absolutely a Kevinism. I've been saying it for decades. Just because something's possible doesn't make it a good idea. But what is possible, I love it. No way we're going back in the room. And Craig, you got 2 people on here who work in commercials all the time. I don't work a lot in commercials. I've worked some, but not as much as Craig or Merrick. The reality is now is because it's possible, then all of a sudden, an exec for the client that's in LA or one that's in Chicago or one that's in New York, or the same thing with any form of an ad agency team, they don't have to be in the room now. I remember the first commercial audition I went to when there was a satellite feed. I think it was Joe Blake or somebody. I was like, satellite feed. Well, that's a good idea. I mean, why fly out here when you can just watch it from your room? Yeah, that's what's going to occur, guys. Why leave your house or travel if you don't have to? And this is why I'm not sure that much is going to change. I certainly don't think it's going to change theatrically. And so this is where we are. And I'm just a big advocate, you guys, I still believe in a place called hope. Don't get me wrong. I do. Yeah, it's my Clinton. Y'all know me. I do that. I did not have. Never mind. Okay, that's enough. I don't see it. So we're now faced with the challenge to recognize, all the cool tools that exist in the 21st century. And the fact that we do color pictures, and the fact that it's digital, and the fact that we have these platforms, and that's fine. Okay. But the truth of the matter is, the 2 things we care about, because I'm going to come back to the marketing comment you made, Gil, is that we still, just as we did then, because marketing, we had to market to the representatives when it was, 8x10s and 9x12 envelopes. That's marketing. But it was easier to address folks. That's why I'm telling you, the show this week is laid out the way it is with the different shows that I'm doing. Because, snail mail is not dead, which is I'm going to do on Wednesday. But this is the point. that I'm sharing with everybody, and you guys understand this in this room. That's why tell your friends, get more people here, 9 o'clock, Wednesday. We have to understand the challenge for us, the thing you're actually trying to accomplish for us, hasn't changed. And it's imperative because, Mike Schoenfeld, I agree with you. It's harder. I think it's harder because there are more widgets flying in the air. It's Hollywood, metaphorically, and you guys know this and you'll hear me say it on the YouTube channel. When I say Hollywood, I mean everywhere. Everywhere that there's, actor business commerce going down, that's what I mean. But there's just a lot more noise. There's a lot more things flying around the air, and it makes it feel like it's different. And to a degree, to focus on it, filter it, sift it down, and sometimes for us as actors, filter it out. Because by definition, we're left so in the dark, so much for being at the bottom of the totem pole unless you're a celebrity, that the hashtag that's come about in the 21st century, FOMO, was always kind of synonymous with being an actor. Fear of missing out was literally, Craig has an audition and I don't. I have an audition and Craig doesn't. I mean, Craig and I have actually read for the same things. There's other people that don't look anything like me that we read for the same stuff just based on age. But our community in general has a FOMO history to it long before that hashtag ever even existed. And the reality is because we're the last to be considered. It's just the nature. I mean, go back to Alfred Hitchcock's old thing. We hated actors. And yet, we're kind of intrinsically important if it's, not animation and not just a voiceover. And even then, the voiceover is pretty important. So I just want you guys to be clear. Utilize the 21st century and all of the tools and accoutrements that come with it in the best, most intelligent way you can use them for your life, your level, your current position, etc. But do not forget, we're still people. We still all have egos. We all have good and bad days. We all have moods. And I'm telling you right now, because those who know me know this is the core answer and the core foundation to everything I've been talking to this community about since 1991. And that is, you got to know people, man, and they have to know you. And that hasn't changed. Yeah, there are people who have representatives and their submissions don't get opened either. That's also a truth. That's also a reality. And casting directors know that. But to believe somehow that the actual genuine baseline core answer to what has changed about trying to work as a performer in this profession, from this side of the camera that we're all on in this room here, hasn't changed. And yes, you can make some arguments that the electronic interface that we now function in, the electronic labyrinth that we have to deal with, has made it harder. Setting aside, the circumstances of the last 9 months of 2020 and the first 2.5 months of 2022. COVID is what it is. Pandemic is what it is. So set that aside, but it did in some ways, because Wellesley, we're not going back in the room. It did in some ways. We were already having arguments. Guys, I was on the negotiating committee for SAG-AFTRA. We were having conversations and debates about self-tapes 3 years ago. This is not new, okay? Katya, my gosh. Good to see you, Katya. Wow, folks, we got Kiev in the house. And I think you just got married, I think. So if that's true, Katya, congratulations. David Anderson, good to see you, my man. And Katya, please tell Olga I said hi. I love your sister. I think she knows that. And someday I'm going to make it to St. Petersburg. Just not right now. But just keep in mind, you guys, that this is the reality of what we face. There are going to be pros and cons to every era, to every platform. don't lose sight of the core issue. The core issue is we're always seeking to find someone to consider us. That's why for your consideration, as an idiom in Hollywood, has always been, go Wildcats, you got it, D. My man David, freshman together at the University of Kentucky, hanging out in Georgia. That idiom, for your consideration, has never changed. It's not going to change. When you're not somebody who is a big enough name to get offers on film and television or commercial, whatever it may be, double scale, all of the jargon, all of the phraseologies, then we are always seeking, by definition of our position, we are seeking to be considered. Like a guy walking in a bar. Same thing. He's like, maybe she'll consider me. Yeah, that's the place you're in. And as long as we're seeking to be considered, then the challenge is, does somebody even know I exist? And that's where the marketing, because Gil, I'm going back to you as we get close to the 30 minutes. And I keep these things to 30 minutes, y'all, just so you know, just for everybody's schedule. So everybody knows it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 9:30 Pacific Standard Time. So you can schedule around it. And or just know when you come in and when we're heading out. I'm not going to linger. But that's just the issue that we face, is we got to get considered. And that has not changed in the 21st century. And that is why your research, how you market, how you speak, how you write notes in a platform interface, language that you use, just as it does in life, tells everyone so much about the kind of person you may be. And if it's a representative, do I want to have that person on my roster, setting aside their physical appearance, which matters, and setting aside their talent? They still have to work with you. They still have to do business with you. Show business. So understand how we engage, how we put ourselves out, hasn't changed just because of technology. It hasn't. Yes, there's a lot of social things we can discuss about apps and platforms and all that. Bottom line is, they're still shooting today on stages all over the world with human beings just like you, and somebody screaming sound, speed, rolling, action. That's still going on. The mechanism to how we get there, and the difficulty, and the percentages of people who work, and the percentages of money. It may be the 21st century, y'all, but that stuff hasn't changed. It's still simply difficult. And we, together, I am going to assist all along the way. We have to consider and understand, I'm going to help you build a better mousetrap. I did it way back in the early 90s, and I'm sharing with you that yes, some of the mechanisms and tools have changed a little bit. But the general concept, Anne-Marie, it's very nice to see you. We're about to finish up, but gosh, so cool of you to show up. We got Portugal in the house, people. We got Paris and Portugal, and I still haven't been to Portugal, and I got to go. So just understand, you guys, that, we can make it out to be what we want, but getting a good representative is still a tough thing to do. And getting consistent, regular, legitimate actor activity, whatever that means to you at this moment in your career, is still a challenge. So absorb the 21st century. Appreciate the tools that we have, but don't pretend. Worst of all, in any form of being negative to yourself. That's my concern. What's up, Woody? Good to see you, kid. Yep, I was just in Bandon. I love it, man. Woodburn, what's up, brah? My caddy in Bandon Dunes. What a great time we had. Judy, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Please, everybody, go to YouTube, The Kevin E, subscribe, get all your friends there. Just remember that we're not going to stop being human. And the connection and the conversation that's required to get folks to do what they're going to do hasn't changed in the 21st century. So that's going to be a wrap for today. So good to see you, Woody. That's cool, man. And I hope you got to get that book done. And guys, we'll see you on Wednesday And we're gonna even go throw it back even further. It's gonna be like Wednesday in the way back. The conversation we're gonna have on Wednesday. So get all your friends, get them here. Let's get this up to the hundreds, because I love assisting where you're at. All right, guys. Pleasure. Thanks, Will. Appreciate it, man. See you guys very, very soon.